We are living in a time when sensitivities are at the surface, often vented with cutting words. Philosophically, you can believe anything, so long as you do not claim it to be true. Morally, you can practice anything, so long as you do not claim that it is a better way. Religiously, you can hold on to anything, so long as you do not bring Jesus Christ into it. And that's a quote from the book I want to tell you guys about today, and it's called Jesus Among Other Gods, and the subtitle is The Absolute Claims of the Christian Message, and it's written by good old Ravi Zacharias. Hi everyone, this is Kate's Book Club, and here we talk about reading to enrich your journey with Jesus. If you'd like to become an official member of this book club, just check out the information in the description box. Today, I want to talk about 5 reasons why Jesus Among Other Gods might be the perfect read for you. Do you believe that there's a difference between Jesus and other gods? Do you believe that all roads lead to heaven? And do you disagree with Jesus' exclusivity when he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father except by me"? These are such important questions for Christians to be able to think about and to answer. And that's where apologetics come in. And maybe you do or don't know Ravi Zacharias. He was a very, very special apologist who was very close to my family's heart, and he recently passed away. So I'm really glad to be doing this video as a tribute to his amazing, amazing work. So let's talk about 5 reasons why this might be your next perfect read. Jesus Among Other Gods was published in 2002 by Thomas Nelson, and it got a 4.2 rating on Goodreads and a 4.7 rating on Amazon at the time of research. So the question is Jesus really and truly unique among other gods? And that's a really important question. And Ravi, in his very personable way, navigates us through this question by comparing different religions, different worldviews to the claims of Jesus Christ, the life of Jesus Christ. Could you explain how Jesus's understanding and view and teaching on the human body and its relationship to the soul and the spirit differs from other worldviews? So I'm a beginner apologist, and I only recently started reading and watching Ravi Zacharias. So these kinds of questions are very new to me as well. And I find it fascinating that Jesus really does have a unique and outstanding worldview among other worldviews on the human body, and just giving some dignity to the human form. Firstly, Jesus was incarnated into the human body, and that gives us a sense of dignity because God himself chose to dwell in a human form, in a human body. And Jesus teaches that the body is the temple. So you might know that from a Christian perspective, but how does that differ from other religions? And what do other religions actually say about the human body? Jesus' life was completely unique in its righteousness and in its sinlessness. People actually had to create false witnesses and false testimonies to try and bring Jesus down. We read in the Bible that people were always looking for a way to trick Jesus into saying something that would give them a reason to put him into jail or get him into trouble. And this is completely unique from other figures of religion. For example, Buddha actually said that purity is a path. Purity is not something that is necessarily attainable from the get-go, which Jesus claimed that he did have purity from the get-go. So these are just some examples of how Ravi Zacharias goes into detail, explaining the difference between Jesus and his life on earth compared to other religious figures and their lives on earth. So the subtitle of this book is The Absolute Claims of the Christian Message. And Ravi Zacharias actually teaches why karma and reincarnation do not fit into Jesus' teaching and his absolute claims. And it might be useful for you if you have come across believers who have absorbed beliefs of reincarnation and karma and they claim to be Christian. It might be useful to take this book and to help yourself and to help them understand why those were not the claims and teachings of Jesus. Nowadays, we see a lot of Christian believers who are slightly new age in their orientation and in their thinking, and some of them have absorbed the concepts of karma and reincarnation, which originate from worldviews such as Hinduism and Buddhism. Another reason you might want to read Jesus Among Other Gods is if you know anyone who's an atheist, or if you yourself are confused between atheism, agnosticism, and Christianity. So this book is not a full-on discussion on atheism, but it does briefly go into reason and why faith is not unreasonable. Ravi Zacharias mentions Bertrand Russell, who was a famous atheistic philosopher, and someone once asked him, what would you do if you got to heaven and God asked why didn't you believe? And Bertrand Russell answers, I will tell him he didn't give me enough evidence. As only Ravi Zacharias can do, he explores where reason actually ends and begins in faith. Truth in its nature is exclusive, but our postmodern culture teaches us that truth is subjective. How can more than one truth be true at the same time? And Ravi Zacharias applies this test of logic to religions and discusses the point that at their hearts, all religions claim that their truth is exclusively true and is exclusively absolute. And just like the subtitle of this book, Jesus and the Christian message is an absolute claim. Pantheistic and agnostic worldviews say that we can have no personal relationship with God. However, the inner sense of isolation is overwhelming when we feel that we are just lonely individuals on this earth with no connection to the divine. And Ravi Zacharias explains why it's an absolute claim of the Christian message that we can have a personal relationship with God. In some reviews of this book, people said that Ravi Zacharias writes too much like the style in which he speaks, which is to be a little bit rambling and to jump from the initial point of the argument into a story, into a metaphor, into a fable, and seemingly not be consistent in his argumentative path. So the truth is that Ravi Zacharias was brought up in India, in which there is an Eastern way of thought, which is the same way of thinking that Jesus followed in his teachings and parables. And this is very different to the type of thought patterns that we would find in a Western university lecture hall, for example, which is a Greek way of thinking, very methodical and step-by-step linear way of thinking. So I would encourage you to give this book a chance. Try to read one chapter more than once to get a feel for what it's actually about. There is also a youth edition of this book for younger readers. Thank you so much for watching this video and have